Provisions of State Laws, Section 303. A. The Board shall make no certification for payment to any state, unless it finds that the law of such state, approved by the Board under Title IX, includes provisions for 1. Such methods of administration, other than those relating to selection, tenure of office, and compensation of personnel, as are found by the Board to be reasonably calculated to ensure full payment of unemployment compensation when due, and 2. Payment of unemployment compensation solely through public employment offices in the state or such other agencies as the Board may approve, and 3. Opportunity for a fair hearing before an impartial tribunal for all individuals whose claims for unemployment compensation are denied, and 4. The payment of all money received in the unemployment fund of such state immediately upon such receipt to the Secretary of the Treasury to the credit of the Unemployment Trust Fund established by Section 904, and 5. Expenditure of all money requisitioned by the state agency from the Unemployment Trust Fund in the payment of unemployment compensation, exclusive of expenses of administration, and 6. The making of such reports in such form and containing such information as the Board may from time to time require, and compliance with such provisions as the Board may from time to time find necessary to assure the correctness and verification of such reports, and 7. Making available upon request to any agency of the United States charged with the administration of public works or assistance through public employment the name, address, ordinary occupation, and employment status of each recipient of unemployment compensation, and a statement of such recipient's rights to further compensation under such law. B. Whenever the Board, after reasonable notice and opportunity for hearing to the state agency charged with the administration of the state law, finds that in the administration of the law there is 1. A denial, in a substantial number of cases, of unemployment compensation to individuals entitled thereto under such law, or 2. A failure to comply substantially with any provision specified in subsection A. The Board shall notify such state agency that further payments will not be made to the state until the Board is satisfied that there is no longer any such denial or failure to comply. Until it is so satisfied, it shall make no further certification to the Secretary of the Treasury with respect to such state. Title IV. Grants to States for Aid to Dependent Children Appropriation, Section 401. For the purpose of enabling each state to furnish financial assistance, as far as practicable under the conditions in such state, to needy dependent children, there is hereby authorized to be appropriated for the fiscal year ending June 30, 1936, the sum of $24,750,000, and there is hereby authorized to be appropriated for each fiscal year thereafter a sum sufficient to carry out the purposes of this title. The sums made available under this section shall be used for making payments to states which have submitted and had approved by the Board state plans for aid to dependent children. State plans for aid to dependent children, Section 402. A state plan for aid to dependent children must 1. Provide that it shall be in effect in all political subdivisions of the state, and, if administered by them, be mandatory upon them. 2. Provide for financial participation by the state. 3. Either provide for the establishment or designation of a single state agency to administer the plan, or provide for the establishment or designation of a single state agency to supervise the administration of the plan. 4. Provide for granting to any individual whose claim with respect to a dependent child is denied an opportunity for a fair hearing before such state agency. 5. Provide such methods of administration, other than those relating to selection, tenure of office, and compensation of personnel, as are found by the Board to be necessary for the efficient operation of the plan, and 6. Provide that the state agency will make such reports in such form and containing such information as the Board may from time to time require, and comply with such provisions as the Board may from time to time find necessary to assure the correctness and verification of such reports. B. The board shall approve any plan which fulfills the conditions specified in subsection A, except that it shall not approve any plan which imposes as a condition of eligibility for aid to dependent children a residence requirement which denies aid with respect to any child residing in the state, 1. Who has resided in the state for 1 year immediately preceding the application for such aid, or 2. Who was born within the state within 1 year immediately preceding the application. If its mother has resided in the state for 1 year immediately preceding the birth, payment to states. Section 403. A. From the sums appropriated therefore, the Secretary of the Treasury shall pay to each state which has an approved plan for aid to dependent children, for each quarter, beginning with the quarter commencing July 1, 1935, an amount which shall be used exclusively for carrying out the state plan, equal to 1/3 of the total of the sums expended during such quarter under such plan, not counting so much of such expenditure with respect to any dependent child for any month as exceeds $18, or if there is more than one dependent child in the same home, as exceeds $18 for any month with respect to one such dependent child, and $12 for such month with respect to each of the other dependent children. B. The method of computing and paying such amounts shall be as follows. 1. The board shall, prior to the beginning of each quarter, estimate the amount to be paid to the state for such quarter under the provisions of subsection A. Such estimate to be based on a report filed by the state containing its estimate of the total sum to be expended in such quarter in accordance with the provisions of such subsection and stating the amount appropriated or made available by the state and its political subdivisions for such expenditures in such quarter, and if such amount is less than 2/3 of the total sum of such estimated expenditures, the source or sources from which the difference is expected to be derived. B. Records showing the number of dependent children in the state, and c. such other investigation as the board may find necessary. 2. The board shall then certify to the Secretary of the Treasury the amount so estimated by the board, reduced or increased, as the case may be, by any sum by which it finds that its estimate for any prior quarter was greater or less than the amount which should have been paid to the state for such quarter, except to the extent that such sum has been applied to make the amount certified for any prior quarter greater or less than the amount estimated by the board for such prior quarter. 3. The Secretary of the Treasury shall thereupon, through the Division of Disbursement of the Treasury Department, and prior to audit or settlement by the General Accounting Office, pay to the state, at the time or times fixed by the board, the amount so certified. Operation of State Plans, Section 404. In the case of any state plan for aid to dependent children which has been approved by the board, if the board, after reasonable notice and opportunity for hearing to the state agency administering or supervising the administration of such plan, finds 1. That the plan has been so changed as to impose any residence requirement prohibited by Section 402. B. Or that in the administration of the plan any such prohibited requirement is imposed with the knowledge of such state agency in a substantial number of cases. Or 2. That in the administration of the plan there is a failure to comply substantially with any provision required by Section 402 A to be included in the plan. The board shall notify such state agency that further payments will not be made to the state until the board is satisfied that such prohibited requirement is no longer so imposed and that there is no longer any such failure to comply. Until it is so satisfied, it shall make no further certification to the Secretary of the Treasury with respect to such state administration. Section 405. There is hereby authorized to be appropriated for the fiscal year ending June 30, 1936, the sum of $250,000 for all necessary expenses of the board in administering the provisions of this title. Definitions. Section 406. When used in this title, A. The term dependent child means a child under the age of 16 who has been deprived of parental support or care by reason of the death, continued absence from the home, or physical or mental incapacity of a parent, and who is living with his father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, brother, sister, stepfather, stepmother, stepbrother, stepsister, uncle, or aunt, in a place of residence maintained by one or more of such relatives as his or their own home. B. The term aid to dependent children means money payments with respect to a dependent child or dependent children.